self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is the premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and Self-Storage Unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Good afternoon and happy Thursday, self-storage industry. My name is Jessica Johnson. I'm the Vice President of the SBOA, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join us today. We have another great session for you of Self-Storage Unlocked. Today's version is how to utilize the hub and spoke business model to grow your self-storage business. And this entire month, we're doing Mystery Moderator Month. So I am not moderating today. I have an awesome guest moderator that I will introduce to you momentarily. Just want to go over a few quick housekeeping items with you. We want you to engage with us today during the session. So if you have questions for the speakers, please put your questions in the chat area. I see a bunch of you chatting us now, dropping us your name and where you're from. Please continue to do that so we can say hello to you. There is a polls section on the right-hand side of your screen that we would like you to go there and answer some of the polls for us so we can get to know you better and know your business needs better. And then there's an expo section on the left-hand side of your screen where you can connect with all of the companies that are represented here today. And I just want to give a shout out to those companies because without them, we are not able to put on these great educational webinars for the industry. So we have Storable with us today, PTI, Storage Asset Management, Freedom Storage Management, and SynchronyHR. Big shout out to all of those. And before we bring on our guest moderator, I want to play a quick video for you and then we'll get started.
Every business starts with an idea, one which when carefully nurtured and implemented has the capacity to grow tremendously. Until the paperwork and employee-related issues begin to bog you down, and it costs more to resolve these issues than it does to fulfill your core function of growing your business. As a small business, you can be at a competitive disadvantage compared to big firms. Your employer-related costs for insurance and administration can be much higher. Imagine if you could offload these tedious tasks onto someone else as you better focus on accomplishing your objectives. A partner to offload tax and payroll responsibilities, bring down benefit costs, provide retirement savings plans, such as 401k, while saving you time and money on workers' compensation and unemployment claims. Someone who is invested in ensuring your success. With SynchronyHR, you can do that and more. We are a human resources outsourcing firm that is committed to providing high-quality HR solutions that meet the current needs of every company. When joining SynchronyHR, you are joining a group of many companies with thousands of employees to leverage buying power and have access to a tailored lineup of HR-related services, including payroll, compliance, employee benefits, technology, risk management, 401k, and telemed. This will in turn help strengthen your internal work environment. Enhance your business with SynchronyHR today and see for yourself why companies using a PEO grow faster, because we partner with people for people.
All right, awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up our guest moderator today. I have the one, the only Jim Mooney with me today. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Jess, how are you? Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Always happy to have you, and you always drop so much industry knowledge whenever we do have you. So happy to have you. And Jim, this is your show today, so I'm going to scoot out and I'm going to let you take it over. But before you get started, give the audience a little bit of a brief history of who you are and how long you've been in the industry, and then you can bring up your panelists.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm Jim Mooney Jr. I'm Vice President of Operations, owner-operator of Freedom Storage Management here in Pennsylvania. Been in the industry about 22 years now. Started as a site manager, feels like forever ago, back in Philadelphia, and just worked my way through the industry. This industry is a fantastic one to be in. All the connections and knowledge and all we learn and share from each other. I'm actually excited to be moderating this with a great panel of people to talk about the hub and spoke model, whatever we're going to call it today. So let's we're going to start introducing our panel, let them kind of give a couple words about themselves. Today we're joined by ALYSSA QUILL from Storable. We're joined with Jim Ferguson. I'm sorry, let's go from Sam, Jim Ferguson from Storable, Keith from SynchronyHR, and Ryan Stewart from PTI Security. So ALYSSA, you want to give a brief on you?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Jim. Hi, guys. Great to be here today. Thanks for having me. My name is ALYSSA QUILL. I am from Storage Asset Management. We are a third-party property management company. We're based in Pennsylvania, but we have stores in 35 states, and we manage about 440 locations around the country.
Cool.
That's me.
All right, there's Jim.
Hey, I'm Jim Ferguson. I've been in the industry for 12 years. I've actually been with vendor side. I've actually had a chance to actually work on the operator side, so I have a little different viewpoint and been able to work with a lot of the people on this panel, which is wonderful. But I appreciate you guys being able to add me into this panel.
Cool. And here's Keith.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Excited to be here. I'm Keith TIRICO from SynchronyHR. We're a payroll HR outsourcing company. You just saw that video. I have over 15 years of experience in the HR outsourcing industry. About 10 years of experience around working with SBOA, and I'm excited to be here today, Jim.
Cool. Look forward to having you.
Hey, Ryan Stewart. I'm the Director of Sales for PTI Security. We do everything access control related for the self-storage industry for the last 4 decades. So largest deployment of access control in the industry. Roughly 37,000 facilities use our equipment. So many of you on the call might likely use our stuff. We appreciate your business and excited to be here and speak with everyone.
Cool. Very cool. So we're going to get started with a quick icebreaker for everybody. There's a lot of experience on this panel. So the question for the group is, what is the, how many years experience do you think this panel has together? And there's going to be a $10 Amazon instant download gift card from the SBOA. So stick around at the end of the session so Jess can announce the winner. So how many years combined experience do you believe this panel has here today? So think about that for a minute, and then we're going to jump right into it. So we've got a lot of guys. We got a lot of great questions here for the panel, and we're just going to throw it out there. And we're going to do ladies first for the first question. So, ALYSSA, you're going to be the first one up. So, not to put you on the spot or anything.
Make it easy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, how many owners are already utilizing the hub and spoke model or plan to start going forward? What do you think on that?
Oh, way more than we think. So I think that to larger operators, this seems new and trendy, and there's more technology, and you could do it a little bit different. But I think a ton of self-storage operators, owner operators, have been doing some form of, maybe not hub and spoke, but some form of unmanned property management across the country for years. So it's now it's seeing how we can take all the things that they've learned over the years and learn from them and apply some different technology to do it in a bigger scale.
Right. So speaking of technology, Mr. Ferguson, from your perspective, from the Storable side, you're dealing with a lot of operators are investigating this model and doing that. So what are you guys seeing on your end?
I think Alyssa's right. There's some operators who've done this for a long time, and now a lot of people are saying, wait, how can we do this? But how can we do it differently or do it better? Or we want to kind of streamline to what we were looking for. It's a trend. I mean, a lot of our customers are looking for more ways to be efficient or to automate tasks and to automate different things, right? If it's from integrations from websites into your software, if it's just from manual tasks in a software, or honestly, just the ability to have ALYSSA do stuff on my computer, right? I'm in North Carolina, she's in Pennsylvania, just having ALYSSA be able to do more things in different regions. Right. Having that technology background and the ability to do those things is opening a lot of doors for people to really figure out what they want to do and how they want to serve their clients.
Ryan, from a security perspective, I mean, what are you guys seeing on your end from the people doing this? I mean, I know I'm doing it personally. I run, 25 of my 28 stores are unattended. So we have people there, but we're running remotely. So what kind of technology have you seen people asking for on your end?
Yeah, and kind of the consensus with everyone else. I mean, it's not necessarily that new of a concept, but everyone's kind of been doing a different hybrid of it, right? Being fully unmanned to partial to a store down the street, this, that, and the other, right? So when you look at security, security is obviously extremely important, right? I mean, you want to secure your investment. It's tough enough to secure your place with somebody there, then you got to consider somebody not there, and then how many facilities that you're using. So there's a lot of different solutions on the market. There's not necessarily a one size fits all model, but you look at your cloud-based software to have access anywhere to electromechanical locks. We look back in the day. I always say like storage used to be just kind of a chain link fence and a padlock on the door. So there's nothing really monitorable about that. So if you want to know what, protect your investment, understand what's going on, have that true remote command and control of your facility, utilizing the technology that's in the market today and even what's coming down the pike, super important, because otherwise you don't know what's going on at your facility.
Right. I got a comment. I'm watching the comments come through, and Chris Field guessed that this panel has over 125 years of experience. That makes some of us pretty old, and thanks, Chris, for that. I'm not quite sure we wanted to hear that number, but thank you for that. But going back to the questions, Keith, from your perspective for unmanned, from the HR perspective, what does that do for payroll and costs and all those things? So you're probably looking a lot more, some part-time people in the properties versus if you have one person can do 2 or 3 stores remotely. From an HR perspective, or that side of the coin, which a lot of us don't think about all the time, how does that strategically help or hurt?
Yeah, even for our own company ourselves, Jim, we kind of accidentally fell into it personally just on this type of model. We've had like sales reps as an example, throughout the country. That was kind of normal. And what we're starting to do now is our service teams, because we're able to find like top tier talent and different types of people out there. So the way that I've seen it now, as far as in the storage side of it, is we're able to do and streamline a lot of the processes from a technology standpoint, providing the flexibility for, the onboarding process being electronic and things like that. It just gives you more flexibility to be able to expand with less employees.
Right. Okay. So, Alyssa, I'm going to come back to you since you and I are more operators in this world. I want to get your opinion on this. What are some of the challenges you were surprised by when you started implementing some of these models, for lack of a better word?
So we've kind of grown into this. So we've always had some stores where we'd have a big 600 unit property, and then down the street a 200 unit property that we ran we called it an annex then, not a spoke. But it really was the start of hub and spoke, right? The property with a lot of units is the hub, and we're running some near it. And as we've done more of those or added more spokes, or if we do have some situations in some parts of the country where we don't have offices at any stores, but we have a remote manager who might be hours away, handling all the calls and collections and management of the business for many stores. So some of the things that basically some of the mistakes we've made and learned from and grown along the way, or not thinking about scale. So it's hard to manage for us. It's hard to manage one small remote property that's not at all close to anywhere. We have other people on our team, because you have to hire somebody very part-time. And if they go to go do maintenance walkthroughs, if you don't have automated overlocking systems, you have to manually overlock and remove overlocks, those types of things. So if it's a very small property that's far from others, we just found we weren't very good at it. If that person went on vacation, it was a challenge, things like that. So that was a challenge that we thought, no big deal, we can do this. And then we found out it was pretty hard. And then the other challenges, some of them are related to technology. So it's not as easy as, okay, I have this manager and we use this software and we're going to buy a whole bunch of small properties and just take them on. The gate software, you need to really think about, is the gate software going to work from her computer where she is? If you roll them into the system, are they all going to connect? How is she going to see the cameras for all of those stores? How is she going to be able to communicate with tenants at all those stores and really make this experience for customers better? So there are actually quite a bit of moving parts that you really have to think through.
One of the things for us, we picked up a couple of properties and one, and you don't think about it today, but internet was a problem. Finding internet that worked regular for gates and cameras and software. At our one store, we went through 3 different providers trying to find the best fit for us for internet for one of these properties that were in the middle of, kind of remote area. So that was a big challenge for us going through.
Good point.
Yeah, we hear that challenge all the time. People trying to find just the bandwidth to be able to run everything.
Right. And it's the properties like we picked up one. It's like, okay, there was nothing there. They ran it from their home, and okay, trying to find a unit to put, get electric to the property, even put a computer in. Some of these properties had, one sign out front with power to it, and that was it, or some lights on the building. So there are all kinds of challenges out there. So one of the big questions is that we hear all the time: do you think a completely unmanned facility can work in every situation? And Brian, I'm going to go to you for that for the first one.
For me, I think, I always think there's never a one size fits all solution, right? I mean, you got to look at your different markets. You got to look at, the industry or the market, the landscape that you're in, competition around you. What's the demand? What's your organizational objective, right? Are you looking just to continue to expand and consolidate and bring in more facilities and grow, and not necessarily care where you are? It's all about what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Jim Ferguson, for your perspective, especially with the software and everything we're doing, I know Storable has many options for software for sizes, but when you're trying to automate these properties and use technology to, as much of us try to do every day, there's also limitations on cost perspective from a customer. If you buy a property that's got 40 or 50 units, is it advantageous to try to run that remotely?
No, I think it's fair. I think going kind of on what Ryan said too, it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? What do you want the client experience to be like? What works in that market? And what can you afford, right? Because costs, right? Are you using multiple different providers for all the bells and whistles? Think of your most technology friendly friend who has every tech tool imaginable, right? And there's Mooney, let's be honest. We all know that Mooney has like 3 tablets and 3 laptops and all that. He's that guy. But for Jim, who's buying a 50-unit storage facility, then do I really need all those tech tools? Or are there tools that are built into some things out of the box that people really are using to the most capacity possible? There's a lot of automations that I think a lot of technology services in the industry offer that people don't fully understand all the things it could be doing that are just part of the cost of the product.
Exactly. I mean, it goes into, and Keith, going back to you for this, Alyssa hit the kind of nail on the head earlier, but when you're running one store remotely in a market, say, you're in North Dakota and you got one store that's got, 150 units, so you hire a part-time person to work there for 15, 20 hours a week, and now you're in a state you've never been in before. The HR challenges for that, what are they like?
Yeah, you have multi-state exposure, right? So is the paperwork in line from when you hire that person? Plus, you don't want to fly out there to collect that paperwork. So, as an example, each state would be very different. As an example, if you're in California or if you're in New York, you have certain mandatory things that you have to have, and our system captures all that, so you don't have to worry about that. Even right down to cutting checks out and so on.
Right. Even just for insurance, insurance or the employee while they're on the site. I mean, are they paid out of North Dakota? Are they paid out of like Pennsylvania, where ALYSSA and I both sit, or North Carolina, or Ryan in Arizona? I mean, those things all have to be thought about when you go to do one of these properties.
That's correct. And having the correct deductions coming out on how it has to be based on the state that they're in from a tax perspective, whether it be the SUTA, the state tax, obviously the FICA and food and all that's going to be the same everywhere.
Right. But I mean, that's probably a challenge that most people aren't thinking about. I mean, listen, when we did it, it's like, we're going to another state. It's like, and you're what, 38 states now?
It's interesting. Wow. We're at 35, but for the first solid 10 years of our company, we used a PEO. Because it was, how can we were pretty spread out and had one or two employees in a whole bunch of states, and it was hard to get good health insurance. It was hard to know what had to be filed in every state and make sure we were doing everything right. So now we're at a size where we have a full team in-house and we're handling all that stuff in-house. But for the first 10 years, we used a PEO.
Right.
So it did help us grow.
Ryan, here's one that might be more geared to you or even ALYSSA when we're building properties. As you design a project, are there things to keep in mind that you whether you have an office or you don't have an office? Like prime example, if you're going to put in security systems and cameras and all that stuff, and you're down south or you're in Texas, do you need a climate controlled unit to have your cameras and your gate system in that, or can you just throw it in a unit outside? When you're building these properties, you really got to look at that, because normally you build an office, everything's inside. There's heat and air conditioning. But if you're doing an unmanned property or taking over an unmanned property and you want to add all these features to it, what are the challenges, Ryan, from your side to be able to add the features that most of us want to have?
I think one side, the challenge that you spoke to earlier, just having the bandwidth to even accept it. Then you look at the bandwidth, Ferguson mentioned earlier, you want to put in all the bells and whistles and all this stuff to help you run as efficiently as possible and have true, instant communication with your sites and proactive notification, all that stuff. But all the tools and technologies that are on the market to bring in come with a cost, right? So you got to figure, to hit, Jim's point, if my site only, returns X and I got to spend Y to do this, doesn't make sense.
Right.
So there's challenges on the financial side. There's challenges on the bandwidth side as well.
I mean, I can speak for myself. We just did one in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We went down there and there was nothing. So we actually took a 10 by 20, cut it in half. And my facility coordinator, we were able to tap into the electric and ran electric in the unit. We put in the cameras and the PTI system. We had to dig a trench to get that all in there, and the gate. And we got the internet all in there. But it's like, okay, North Carolina, do we need some kind of ventilation in here for all the equipment?
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing to consider when you're purchasing an existing facility to retrofit, add that stuff. Yeah, to your point, I mean, you're cutting concrete, you're running conduit, you're running wiring, you got to open units in some instances to try to access things. That opens up a whole list of challenges, right? As opposed to, expanding somewhere and building new, right? If you build something, you can do all that stuff without, it's all built to your plans. But to add to it, that's stuff you got to really consider. And that's stuff that you really need to partner with a true local expert, integrator, dealer, installer. There's different terms for them. But partnering up with somebody there that really knows what they're doing is going to pay itself, tenfold.
Ryan, I'll give you guys credit, because everywhere we've gone, we've reached out through our contacts, Jim Del Sordo, Automate or whatever, you guys, and we found good installers, people to work with to have the gates, because it's amazing how many of these properties that we pick up that has a linear keypad on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to swap them out right away. So, thank you for your support there, because you got a good network of connections for us to be able to easily do some of the things we want to do.
Yeah, perfect.
So one of the questions on the list here is, for somebody who wants to try this and wants to, branch out in the automated, where do you start?
I don't know who you're calling on, but I'll talk. I think what we have found, and we really look at every property we manage and say, is there a better way to manage this individual property? So it's not at all cookie cutter, right? So if we have a store that's maybe not huge, maybe it has 300 or 400 storage units and it's pretty full, and we've been able to push rates, and it's really, just run really smoothly. Now we think, well, maybe we can cut back on the hours there. We're open 6 days a week. We have a manager there every day. We've gotten to a point where we have the basics that you would need to be able for a customer to have a good experience even when you're closed. So we've got a very, very, very good website with an easy online rental process. Our gate communicates with our software so they can rent a unit, the gate's going to open. You have a way for them to get into the actual storage unit and lock the storage unit after they rent it after hours. Once you have those things, then you know what? Maybe you cut back the hours from 6 days a week, you're open 3 days a week. And you see how that goes. Do you lose occupancy? Are the customers upset? Do you get any bad online reviews? Or do you have to drop rates to maintain occupancy? If none of those things happen, your customers accepting it, you're listening to phone calls. If you have them recorded, things are going smooth, then you cut back more, or you cut back all the way. But I think there are steps if you're already operating that you can ease into it.
Right. I mean, I can tell you same scenario. We've done plenty of these in the last 2 years, and it's adding the first thing we want to add is the technology to make sure we use Da Vinci locks for all our overlocks in our vacant units now, so we don't have to worry about somebody being on site to take a lock off for somebody. So on some of these older properties, the Da Vinci locks work better than a Nokia lock or Ryan, one of your advanced systems. So figuring out what works best in the property there. The biggest thing I would say is do the research and look at it, but don't be afraid to make that step, because we had a store in Tennessee we bought from an owner, and he swore we got there. He had SiteLink, but he didn't use it right, and no credit cards and no internet because people in that area didn't want it. We turned on the internet. We had a rental within 24 hours. So I mean, people will adapt to these things. So sometimes I think the fear is in our own head that it's not going to work, and not to try something.
Yeah, I think it works. It can work in many, many, many scenarios, but I think it works very well where you have staff in the town anyway, or nearby. You have teammates around who, when there is an issue and a customer does need somebody, in person, or there's something going on at the property, the gate's not opening for whatever reason, you have somebody close that can get there pretty fast.
Right.
It makes it easier to try it. I think trying it first in a market where you don't know anybody who lives there and you're going to try to hire one part-time person, I think that's more challenging.
Okay.
It would be my first step.
Jim Ferguson, a question just popped up in the chat. Does Storable allow to have an annex facility tied to the main facility, or do you need a separate SiteLink account per facility?
I feel like Alyssa and I can both answer this question. It's a little different. And honestly, I think I'll say, and Alyssa, if you don't mind taking the second part, but I'm going to say it's all about how you legally have them made or created and how your financial back end matters.
Yeah, in our experience, if it's the same LLC, so you can use the same merchant processing, right? The credit card payments can go into the same bank account, then you can usually make it work. You have to have the same gate software at all the properties typically. And if you're using a call center, you need to really make sure your call center understands how it works. You also have to really make sure it's clear on your website and in all your communication with tenants. If they're, renting a specific unit, where is that? Where do they send payments to? Where do they actually physically show up? If you have online auctions, you have to be very clear about where is this unit that you're buying online. And I think you need to have, no matter how you do this, I think you need very, very, very clear signage at any unmanned facilities that helps a customer, easily contact somebody if they need to, easily scan a QR code to get to your website. So it helps them understand where to go.
Right. Yeah, Katie made a really good point. You can do, Katie, right? I mean, I know I looked at it one time with Storable, but they were. I think someone has to do with distance too, how far they are apart from each other. So there are some variables on that thing. But Alyssa, you just made a fantastic point. Signage is key. I mean, we all know what we're doing, but when you have, when you're using Da Vinci locks or things like that, having the drop boxes where they can return the lock, the signs on the gates, the signs on the property. It's amazing how COVID brought QR codes back to the world, right? We're all using them now. Rent online, pay online, unmanned properties. Even on our website right now, we're in the process of changing websites. We're going to have leasing office hours where people are. And then we're going to have hours, if there's anybody at the facility, trying to identify that, because one of the problems is, listen, I'm sure you've run into it. Somebody, goes online, looks at the unit, drives up there, and they're at the front gate to look for a unit, and it's an unmanned property.
They're looking for your office. That's tricky. Yeah. Even how do you handle it on Google My Business? So Google My Business has open hours.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Jim, what do you guys put?
We've been putting the hours and the phone numbers, and we've worked hard with Sparefoot and with OpenTech, our call center, to make sure that they know it's it's an unattended facility. Yes, we have a fully staffed office waiting for them that's available 9 to 5, and they got a call. You're never going to stop it. We try very, very hard to, but we again trying to put as much information out there for the customers that they know. And if they do show up at the property, hey, we're not here, call this number to speak to us right away, type of deal. That way we can walk them through. And it's just getting the customers used to, and our staff used to running a different philosophy. Face it, 10 years ago, most of us didn't do these things. And that kind of leads to the next question, ALYSSA, for you, I guess, or for anybody. One of the things Jess put in the comments here, most of our people have an average of 300 to 700 unit property. What size makes sense? And then what size do you have to have an office? I know my opinion. I'll wait till hear what you guys say, but I'll save mine for the end.
Darn. I wanted to hear yours first.
Well, so here, I'll do this. So if you think about it from Storable's perspectives, how many thousands of clients do we have? And we have different clients using this concept to cross, right? You have Jefferson Shreve's model, you have Brad Bensley's group, you have just pick the brand, and you have different size facilities. You have up to 1,000 units, and you have literally up to, I think Hideaway has a couple locations in Florida, which are like the 50, 80, 100 units. So the model could scale, and I think it just depends on your back end, right? Are you having 6 people in a house or a place that can then handle all these things? So I look at it as I think the technology can scale depending on how you actually have it. But I think the piece that I think ALYSSA's hit on that I never really thought about is, I'm in North Carolina, I need to have a rep somewhere local so that they can get to that place, or whoever's responsible. Mm-hmm. So that would be my thought.
Yeah, I think quite honestly, I would be nervous personally to try to start to lease up a very large facility without somebody there. And that might just be because I haven't done it before. And so I haven't proven to myself that it can work. I'm sure there are people who've done it and have made it work. Right. But I'm a little hesitant to do that. But I think similar to what Jim said, I think it can work at a lot of different size properties. It's more about how stable the property is, your competition, how aggressive they are.
Demographics.
Demographics maybe, and how, if it's a property where it's people, there's a lot of wear and tear and you have to do a lot of cleaning and a lot of manual stuff there anyway, you're going to need someone there most of the time anyway. You might as well have the office open since you're there. So it's really situational.
Right. I think for our model, we're saying anything over 400, depending on size property, 400 has probably been our number. We've had a couple that are 350, whatever, that we're running remotely. Now, again, these are all mature properties that have a high occupancy on it, so we don't have any lease ups. But with our situation, we have hubs. Like my one hub runs 10 facilities. I got 4 people in that office. I got 2 other hubs, each run one's 8 or 9, and I got 3 full-time people in an office, plus the people that are in the field 10 or 12 or 15 hours a week. So, it all depends on, like Jim Ferguson said, how much staffing you got behind it. ALYSSA, with your guys, you got people there. We're not as concerned about being as close. We got stores that are 9 states away. We hire somebody local, and knock on wood or whatever on my desk right now, we've been very fortunate. We've found some good quality people to partner with us to be our eyes and ears and feet on the ground in these properties. There you go. Jefferson Shreve just commented, we take 300,000 square foot property through lease up with remote models, 100Ks in our max size. Jefferson, always good to hear from you. You're a great leader in our industry, and you're a wealth of knowledge for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And Chris commented on here, there's one here. Would you recommend a sample unit located outside the gates so potential customers can see what that looks like? I mean, I'll take that one to start. Chris, we actually use a tour code on our keypads. We change on a regular basis at all our properties. And with the Da Vinci locks or the twist tags on them, we can let them go right in the gate and actually see the vacant units there. And 9 times out of 10, let's face it, with the occupancy you have right now, they're probably going to rent it anyway. Listen, I don't know if you guys have any sample units.
I mean, I think in a really full property in the last year, we've had really high occupancy. I'd hate to give up units that I could rent eventually.
Yeah.
So I've seen some creative ways other people have done this. So even in, like on a concrete pad, they've outlined the sizes and have different color lines that kind of separate them. So you can see like, this is a 10 by 20, this is 10 by 10, this is a 5 by 10. So I think it's nice, Chris. But I don't know if it's necessary, if I would give up rentable square feet for that.
We got a question from Doug Hubbard. This was directed at me. Can I share the technology systems we use for facilities? So, I mean, realistically, I'm using a lot of what's on here. I'm using SiteLink and Barefooted Storable. I have my gate systems. I have plenty of PTI. I got a few OpenTech that we bought. And again, when we're buying properties, we're acquiring what's existing there. So I have a couple spider door keypads. We have a call center that answers calls. And the biggest thing for us is our remote cameras, which we use our night out cameras that we can see them all. And we use DaVinci locks for our overlocks and vacant units, which means we don't have to be there to take them off. So, Doug, we can connect offline if you want to have a conversation after that. I appreciate the question. We just want to keep going here. Going to go back to HR question here. Advantages of the model as relates to HR. Keith, what do you think? I mean, from a perspective, I know when COVID hit, a lot of us who were already doing these things were ahead of the curve.
Oh yeah. So, COVID changed everything really, right? When that came out, I mean, from a hiring standpoint, as you see, I mean, it's been difficult to hire. Our technology was able to loop in things like, applicant tracking, like I said earlier, the electronic onboarding, time management, PTO. And like we spoke about before, going into all the different states, like helping with job descriptions, file maintenance, unemployment claims management, all this stuff is tying through one unit. So you don't have to worry about utilizing all these different spaces or being being an expert as far as on the tax side of it. So we were able to help out a lot as far as like tying that all in through the streamlining of the technology with that.
Right. Okay, so Matt just threw a question in the field for us. In a remote model, does your remote site manager's job description change? I've seen maintenance take care of more of these circumstances. How does it impact their monthly goals tied to revenue collections and et cetera? ALYSSA, you want to start this one?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in prep for this, we talked about this the other day, but we had to create a bunch of new, when we started really getting into this and doing more, we had to create a bunch of new job descriptions because we have fully remote managers who always work from their home and really never go to the properties that they're at. We had to add something, we learned this from Jefferson, this job title, but a field service rep. So that's somebody who travels around to different properties. They're mostly maintenance, but they're also operations and really working very closely with the remote managers. Not only these job descriptions that are different than a typical storage manager who's doing a little of everything or doing all of everything, but for like those field service reps have a different workers' comp code than our storage managers obviously would be. And then we had to think about, okay, the field service reps that are traveling around to a lot of properties that might not be super close to each other, do we need to give them a vehicle? And then we have the proper insurance to cover when they're driving around. Do we need a set of tools at every property, or can we just have one set of tools and they keep them in a truck and bring them? And a lot of those things that we had to think about.
Yeah. And I'll look at it from the other side of the coin. Expected monthly goals tied to revenue collections, et cetera. We have a bonus program that we utilize for our stores that even our field service coordinator, whatever title we're using for them right now, are part of our bonus for the store, because without the guys in the field, guys or ladies in the field doing the lock checks and the overlocks and the walkthroughs and make sure units are ready to go, the managers in the office can't do their job and rent the units and all those things. So we tie them into the bonus program as much as the managers do based on hours worked at the property, because they're a vital cog for us. I mean, face it, ALYSSA, if you didn't have somebody at the property for 2 weeks, I mean, you're stuck. You can't rent. You can't do. You don't know what's empty, what's not empty.
True. Unless you have unless you have really good cameras and really good electronic latch and locking mechanism that you can talk to, the manager didn't, or the tenant didn't lock it back up remotely, and you can talk to them, right? But you don't know how clean they left it.
Exactly. I mean, we've updated our intent to vacate and cycling was made an e-signable document, and we've added some things where we're asking the people to take a picture of the empty unit and email it to us, and they're doing it. But it still doesn't mean they can't take a picture and throw something back in the unit. So, question from Lynn Sykes. Hey, Lynn, haven't seen you since Virginia. Hope to see you next week. How many are using cellular keypads instead of internet? And that's a great question, especially in properties where, the internet is a struggle. I mean, I'm going to throw you under the bus for a second there. I hear PTI is coming out with one of those sooner or later.
Nothing I can speak to at the moment for you.
Well, I mean, from your perspective, what's your thoughts on cellular keypads?
I think there's a place for it, especially for retrofit standpoint. You're trying to man or secure man doors that weren't necessarily wired before. But at the same point, wired just it performs better, right? It's more reliable, it's more dependable.
Right.
To date, that's the route we've gone, right?
Yeah. But like you said earlier, when you're retrofitting property and you got a completely paved property and you're trying to run conduit, it's like,
It's a challenge you got.
So I think there's aspects for all of that things here. So, cool. So
I'd be curious. I don't know. I think Jess said 50-50 split with the people on the webinar with us that are running unmanned properties. I'd be interested in hearing from them. I don't know if we can poll or it's too late to add another poll question, but it'd be interesting. That's a better question for everybody on the call than
yeah, exactly. So going back to one of the things we talked about a little bit earlier, what type of security technology is important to consider for these models without a staff? I mean, we talked about cameras, we talked about keypads. Is there anything else that's new out there that's something you want to look at? I know Storage Defender, Mark Siri, has got some really interesting products out there with the motion sensors and the alerts. And I don't know if Mark's on here or not, but he'll probably have a booth in Orlando. He's got some interesting tech out there that you can put on your fence lines and things like that, especially on remote properties that you're not there all the time. Is there anybody using things like that or looking into that technology?
No, there's a lot of cool stuff out there that has been available for a little bit. There's a lot of new stuff coming to market, right? I know we're bringing new stuff to market this year. I know, whispers of other groups bringing new stuff to market as well, which all helps, this whole hub and spoke automated model to make that seamless experience for the tenant, right? All the way from online rental to finding you, to online rental, to access to their whole life, to exiting without potentially ever having to interact with a person.
Right.
So it'd be really interesting to see what kind of how people ever adopt everything, right?
Nick Newcomb just chimed in. He said they're using cellular keypads at a few of the unmanned properties and they're going well. Nick, good to hear from you. I hope to see you next week in Orlando. One of the questions I think for ALYSSA we talked about is a lot of people are out there, especially even online rentals. People are still weary that they don't want to rent to somebody that they haven't seen before.
That's what I was going to say. There's really cool technology out there that's worth anybody testing, I think. So there's geofencing that you can have so that when somebody pulls into your driveway or parking lot, you're alerted at a call center or wherever you are at your house. Someone just pulled in, and you can have a screen, or even maybe not a screen, audio, like a Ring doorbell technology, where I know somebody just is walking up, and I can talk to them, or I can be on a screen and they can see me like a FaceTime. And that, I think, Jim, solves a lot of those problems, right? I'm not physically there with you, but they see me, they know I'm a real person. But then from a staffing perspective, that's another job description too, or another thing to think about. If you have these remote managers that are now managing via video, we need to make sure that they have a space that's professional looking, that's clean, that's quiet, that they're able to interact in that way with tenants too.
I wonder. Sorry, Jim. I wonder, Alyssa, too, if that even changes like the class code, right? From, an on-site person who's, walking the grounds to or being there to an 8810 clerical person inside the office, which would save quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I think our remote managers, that's it. They're not doing any lock audits. They're not cleaning at all.
Right.
They're sitting at a desk the whole day. So it's like a call center rep, the same class code.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know personally there's a new tech coming out that I've been working on. It's going to be like a wall pass. They pull up, there's going to be a beacon on the property. So when they pull up to the property, the beacon's going to recognize, we're going to show the wall pass on their phone with a gate code and all the things there. So you'll be able to track who, even if you have a property that doesn't have a gate, because we know there's a lot of properties out there with no gates. If you can put something like this out there with a beacon that lets people know and tracks who's coming and going on your property, that's another security feature out there that gives you a little bit more peace of mind. And let's face it, one of the questions we get a lot is, are you secure? And in certain markets, that's a more heavier requirement than like certain markets. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's new, right? That's one of the benefits of this industry is we all share, but it's also just new tech always comes in. So even next week at the SSA show, like I want to walk the floor to see what else, other people are doing and what new tech is out there. Like that's an interest for me.
So here's a good one for the group. How many remote properties can one manager effectively handle?
Yeah, I think it depends on the properties and how needy the tenants at that property are. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily a number of, we look at it more as a number of total units or tenants. So we're still learning as we grow and get more experience in different markets doing this too. But at this point, I think if you had a remote manager who wasn't going to the properties too, sometimes I think they could probably handle 1,500 units, maybe 2,000 at the most. But then you'd still need, again, people in the field to handle all the things at the properties.
One thing we look at when we're starting to figure out how many stores one of our hubs can run is the effectiveness of properties and receivables. I mean, you got a property you're calling receivables every day. You got a long list of receivables versus people who are on a lot of auto pay. That's going to play a big factor in your time management.
Yeah, how efficient can you get at those other things to help? And
not even we haven't even touched that aspect, but there's so much technology we can use now in the offices, whether it's the the mail service that integrates with SiteLink or robocalls or text messages or SMS resources that can free up the managers to do what we really want them to do is rent space. So if you can use more technology in the office that help them get more efficient, they can run more properties. They can oversee more properties.
Yeah, I think the way you do it is use the technology to help you work a little bit smarter versus harder, right? Absolutely. Utilizing the software and all the capabilities and pulling the analytics from the site to make proactive notifications to tell you when there's something to do that, right? That's much more efficient than having somebody try to watch a screen and try to catch things. Use the technology to your benefit.
Right. Yeah,
I think what Alyssa's. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
What Alyssa said. Go. No, I'll stop. Go.
You can go first. That was just your website. If you can handle, you have a really, really, really customer-friendly, user-friendly website, you can decrease the number of calls or human touches needed too, because it's easy to run online. You can use AI, artificial intelligence chat on your website now, so that questions that are really easy to answer, like what time can I access, what simple, some of the frequent questions, can get a very instant chat. They feel like they're talking to somebody, but nobody has to be there and monitoring it. So this is really cool things. Sorry, Jim, I cut you off.
No, it's funny. It's a follow-up from what you said in the beginning is you start with the basics and then you start adding little things, right? And if you, like what Ryan was saying, is like you look at the time or how many hours a day do I need to be here or those things, and then add the amenities to your websites and the other services, and you can really start adding things in and just start with the basics first and then start rolling stuff out.
Right. And if you do that and things are going great with just the basics, don't spend money on the other things either, right? I mean, like if there's no return on investment because you can't decrease hours anymore, then it's not worth that cost. So it's really figuring out what you need.
And Keith, one of the last ones for you is, I mean, realistically, if we go to more hub and spokes and you have an office, I have a hub that has 4 people in it, I can probably pay maybe a little bit more hourly for less people, but I'll have a better quality, in the office, a longer term manager, a little higher quality salesperson, maybe to do these things. So instead of having, 28 or, 28 stores, I have say 52 people because I got all this stuff. I can scale down a little bit, have people in the field to do some of the hands-on stuff, and then, bring it back into the office and have 3 or 4 or 5 people in there and, really help my payroll costs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And too, by keeping that number down too, it keeps you in different types of things that you don't trigger. So if you're able now, like you were saying, 52 employees, now you're staying underneath 50. Now you don't have to have, the ACA requirements that you'd have if you had over 50, or even running into FMLA, although you'd be separated kind of far, so that probably wouldn't be 50 in one location. Things like that too. It also offset from a legal perspective, which is also nice.
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions that came up here with smaller communities and sites coming with fewer banking options, how many operators start not to accept cash? I can tell you, I mean, cash is we don't take cash payments at any of our remote properties, cash or check. If they want to mail them, they got to mail them to us. I mean, ALYSSA, we have a lot of people. I mean, one of the questions Lynn Sykes asked is 100% online auto pay. I have not gone that route. I know 10 Federal does that, 100% auto pay. I don't own that one because some of our customers are still transient a little bit and pay when they can. Plus, I like late fees. You know what? We all like a little bit of extra revenue. How about you guys? I mean, you guys going away from cash, or what are you doing?
So we are lucky. Well, I mean, a lot of people could do this, I guess, but we have different pockets of hub and spokes in different parts of the country. And right now we are testing different things in those different groups to see what works best, what doesn't work, and learn from our own best practices. So we have one portfolio where it is just auto pay and online payments, or call through the call center, and you can type in your credit card number, but not talking to a person. The PCI, it's more PCI compliant that way. But then we have other ones. We're not accepting cash at any of our remote locations, but we do let people mail in checks at some other ones.
Right.
So we'll see.
Scott Warren just hopped on here, said unintended with call potential. They've seen an agent manager ratio of one person take calls for 12 to 15 locations. Scott, does that have anything to do with size of the location, size of the property, or is it any size? I hope Scott's going to respond to me on my question there. But again, I'd really like the everybody to understand what works for me or works for ALYSSA, might not work for you guys. You got to take what's out there and make it work for your organization, because we all operate differently. I mean, Jefferson Street just came back and said they take cash at 55 locations. We're winding that down. So again, it doesn't matter what one of us does, or Nick Newcomb or Jefferson Trees or Lynn Sykes, any of us do. Take, look at it, do it, and then, tweak it for your system. What works for you, that way other people. Yeah. Here comes the Grim Reaper.
Yes, I am the Grim Reaper of time. I just want to keep everybody on a quick time check. Audience, if you have any remaining questions, now is your time to ask the panelists, the experts that are here with us today. While you're thinking of those questions, we've been talking a lot. It's been mentioned a lot about SSA next week. So we hope to see you guys live in Orlando next week if you plan to be there. The SBOA will have a booth. We'll be at booth number 106. PTI is at booth number 306. Storable, I don't even need to give your booth number out, but it is 415 because when you walk into the expo hall, there's no way that you're probably not going to see their booth. And then there's lots of different sessions that are going on that we hope everyone that's going live are able to participate in. I'm teaching one on Friday morning about social media marketing. Jim, I think Epi from Storable's teaching one about this particular topic. Is unmanned facilities actually right for you? And then ALYSSA, I know Melissa, I just realized that, is doing a roundtable about marketing for 2022 and what that kind of is going to look like. I'm doing a roundtable about making sure that you have the right staffing in place. So lots of cool things going on at the event next week. So we hope everyone can be there. Looks like there's a question here from Chris Field. Kiosks, yes or no? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I know OpenText sells kiosks, but my kiosk is right here in my pocket. So I mean, they work at certain properties, the ones that dispense locks, but for me, I don't use them.
We have them at some properties, and we have others that we're running without them. So I think they're like most things. I think they can be helpful in certain demographics and certain high traffic, more walk-in, local people stopping in areas. But I don't think they're a requirement to have an unmanned property.
Right.
Got it. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed today's session. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, we can't do these great educational seminars and webinars without the likes of people like you. So thank you to all. And if anyone in the audience has further questions, we will post the replay of this video on the SBOA YouTube channel, so you can go there and rewatch it. You can share it with others that were not able to attend. And then all of the links to get in touch with each of the speakers or each of their respective companies will be listed in the description area. And then in 2 weeks' time, on St. Paddy's Day, we have another version of Self-Storage Unlocked coming for you. It's called Don't Rely on Luck, Plan Ahead, How to Properly Develop Marketing Budgets and Plans. Again, we have another guest moderator. I will give you a quick hint. She is super, super, super sweet and super, super, super Southern.
I know.
Don't say it, Jim. Keep it quiet. But we always do these at least 2 or 3 times a month, depending on how many weeks are in the month. Always on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we have another quick video to show with you before we wrap up today. And Alec, run that video for me, please. That's right, people. We have a new educational series the SBOA is powering called Storage for Rookies. If you are a newer owner and operator or an investor in the space, or even if you're a current one and you want to learn how to grow your portfolio and how to scale it properly, this is an event that you should attend. It's a one-day virtual event, 12 to 5 p.m. The next one is on March 24th. We are doing an early bird special on tickets. You need to enter the promo code EARLYBIRD10 to get the discount. If you are interested in learning more about this new program, please visit storageforrookies.com. Thank you everyone again for attending. Hope to see the bulk of you that were here today with us virtually live next week in Orlando. Can't wait to see all your smiling faces. Have a great rest of your Thursday and an awesome weekend. Take care, everyone.